So the year was 1980 something. I don't remember. A young Nima had gotten a bit of jealousy because his cousin had gotten a Nintendo Entertainment System, and same with my best friend. I pleaded with my parents to get one, and I remember this was a bit of a uh, it was a bit of a discussion. It wasn't too much. I think my parents were a little bit interested in checking it out too. Uh, if I remember it, my aunt was really big into games way back then. But after what felt like months of bugging and complaining, and ultimately, I think the I want to hang out with my cousin because he's got the game, and they got tired of having to drive me around for sleepovers and for hangouts, and you know ultimately, like, they discovered it would be easier to just buy me an NES. And so I got one. And this was the first game that I was experienced to. And it was amazing. It was awesome. This was what everybody was playing, and I could finally play it for myself. This game, in so many ways, changed the entire landscape of gaming. It kind of brought that home console experience to a lot of people. Um, as it was the first game, the first home console, and a lot of people, like, it just brought gaming into their living room, and that's, I think, incredibly important. And so that's why Mario will always hold a place for every gamer, and just in our society. That's why everyone knows Mario. Um, the one thing I have to mention, which was kind of funny, is I remember my mom, my uncle, my aunt, and I believe it was a friend of my parents. They were all there when we brought the Nintendo home. And my dad and the other adults in the room could not figure out how to hook it up. And I know maybe you've never even seen a Nintendo hookup, but let me explain it to you. It's a power cord, and with this one, it was the coaxial cable, the type that you literally screw into the back of your TV, and that was it. It was two cables. One of them was fairly obvious where it goes. You know what? Actually, that's not fair. Both of them were very, very obvious where they go. We're not talking about like the VGA cables, the red, yellow, and white. No, we're talking one that literally just screws into the back of the TV, and the other one, a fairly common um, electrical plug that had been used for millennia. But they couldn't figure it out. And I remember there being like this discussion about, well, maybe we should go ask ask your cousin how it got hooked up, or your best friend, and find, call over his dad and see how he hooked it up. It makes me laugh because it's so ridiculously easy to hook one of these things up. Uh, so it really, really funny. But no, this was my first game in a lot of ways. First game I beaten, and ultimately, one of the games that I remember I would play with my one of my best friends, and the whole neighborhood, like all the kids, would come over and watch me play because I could beat it. The rest of them couldn't beat it yet, and so that was kind of uh, it was kind of the experience of being like popular, like my first experience of being popular for something, and that was something I'll always remember is they're sitting there for a couple hours or so while everyone watched me play this game, and I beat it so many times just because everyone wanted to see it done, and it was great. It always takes me back to that memory. And that's why this game will always be important and special to me in a lot of ways. And I do have to say, though, that it is one of many Mario games that holds a spot for me. And the other one, I think, is also just as important and arguably my favorite Mario game. So we have to fast forward about, well, a lot of years until 2017. I had just picked up a PSP Vita, and it was so cool because this device allowed me to buy a lot of Japanese games, and I love the RPGs, and that whole catalog of Japanese RPGs became vastly available to me on the PSP Vita. Well, I had also, within the last few years, had a child, and he desperately wanted a Nintendo Switch. And being the dad I am, and understanding this, that my wife was still in college, I was working on saving up money to purchase a business. We didn't have a lot of money. Went to our local game shop. It's actually called Game On. Great place here in the area. Love Tracy. He's always there for the hookup. But he had a Nintendo Switch. He had a Nintendo Switch and he had Mario Odyssey. And after a little bit of of debate, and let's be honest, like, my son can pretty much ask for what he wants, and I will end up doing it, especially if it's within my power. And what kind of dad would say, well, no, I'm not going to give you that because I would rather have my PSP Vita. I, of course, traded my PSP Vita in for the Nintendo Switch and for Mario Odyssey. And it was great. I was glad I did it. I miss my PS. I still miss the Vita. I wish, I can't find one that's not incredibly expensive anymore. But what this game and what this console became, and then the Switch arguably is my favorite console. Handheld, however you want to say it. But even more so, Mario Odyssey became incredibly important to my son because he, being pretty young at that time, was not great at the game. And he would always need help, and me and his mom would help him through stages, and we would help him play the game. But ultimately, this became the first game that my son beat from start to finish. And that's always going to be one of those things, those important memories that you have. And I know it's going to always be important to him. He loves gaming so much. And just like Super Mario Brothers was for me, Mario Odyssey is for him. And I think that's a cool experience and this like special connection that we have with Nintendo and with Mario. And it's one of the many reasons I put this on the list, and basically to go into why Mario has been really important to me. And I'm not a huge Mario fan, to be honest. Like, I had to like sit back and think about what games were important and why they were important. And Mario Odyssey holds that spot because of that memory, because of my time with my son, teaching him about video games and him accomplishing something, and all in the same world, if you will, that I did as a kid around his age. And, on top of that, I gotta say, I think I put this on a list of best games for people who don't know much or are inexperienced with gaming. It's also just a great game. Like, they really did a lot with Mario Odyssey. Obviously, it wasn't something I was really even aware of when we got it. It was just because my son really wanted it, and he wanted a Nintendo Switch. And, again, I'm glad we did that. I'm glad we opened that world open to him and allowed him to play this game and allowed him to have that love of video games through Mario Odyssey, and it's perfect for that. It's perfect for letting people, like him and people who aren't gamers experience a game and experience why they're so much fun, and to also just give you that experience of beating a game. And for a lot of people, that's a huge undertaking, and so he got to experience that thanks to Mario Odyssey. And so for that, it's going to be one of the most important games in my collection, and one of the most important games in the Mario series for me. So, if you haven't figured it out by now, I'm doing a list of Mario games that are really important to me and why they're important to me. And they all have to kind of tie in with childhood in some form. From my childhood to my son's childhood, to my baby. And so, mid 2020, I think it may have been July. Um, no, I take that back. This would have been October of 2020, of last year. My wife got sick, and she started to get a cold and all of that, and things started to look not great. The big discussion was, oh, she's got to get tested for COVID, and the very, very first thing we decided, though, was she's got to isolate herself, quarantine in her room. And at this point, my daughter was only a few months old. And I'll be honest, I am a great, great father to my son, but I'm an okay dad to my daughter. And it has nothing to do with how much I love either one. I love them both so much. It has to do with the fact that I'm not great at taking care of babies. And she had, at this point, such a bond and relationship with her mother that she didn't have with me. And here we are, we're thrust into this world where my wife could not be there for her. Literally had to be quarantined in a room by herself, and the baby had to deal with me. And we were living out on the couch. My wife had the bedroom. And so there was so many obstacles to figure out, like how we were going to sleep, what we were going to, how I was going to sleep, because with a baby it's really difficult, and especially with our situation, because she slept with her mother. We were on a couch. We didn't have a bed, and you got to be, you got to be careful with dealing with an infant. But ultimately, what ended up happening was that first night, the baby had to sleep on the couch while I sat on the outside of the couch. Like, she sat against the back of the couch, and I was on the edge of the couch, so to speak. And there's a couple things I think is kind of funny. I put on Community, which is my favorite show. I don't know if I've alluded to that enough in these videos, but I put on Community, and I decided, well, I'm just going to not sleep, and I'm gonna have to keep myself busy. I can't go sit and play with my consoles, because she might roll over, and if she rolls over, she could fall on the ground. I need to be close in this proximity, in case she moves, in case she needs something. And I decided to go ahead and grab my Nintendo Switch, hunker down, watch Community, and then I thought about the new Mario 3D rule that had come out, the video game, and none of them I had ever played before. And I had heard so many good things about Mario Galaxy, but I never, like I said, experienced it. And that was when I decided it's a perfect time just to fire this game up. It's a game that I can easily pause, that I don't have to just be so enthralled in that I can't, pay attention to the baby. And yeah, she was sleeping, and if she would have rolled over, she would have rolled over into me instead of off the couch. So it was perfect. Sat down, And for 10 hours straight, I played Mario Galaxy, and I pretty much had beaten it, if I remember. I don't know if I beat it in that run or if I did it in the next day. But I experienced Mario Galaxy, and how fun this game was. And it was such a breath of fresh air at this time. I talk about how important gaming is for people with anxiety and depression and stress and all of that. And this game did so much for me at that time because I was incredibly anxious. Uh, even though having a son, I just was not sure how to take care of this baby. And I wasn't sure what I needed to do. And for any fathers out there, honestly, just be there. That's the thing. Just be there, be coherent, and do your best. You're never going to do everything perfect. And there's so many times with a baby, they just cry because of something you can't understand and you can't fix it. But just be there and be patient. And um, this game, though, it gave me so much relief of that anxiety and that stress. It was so fun just to explore this world, get into this game, um, really kind of let those pressures go and just get into this new Mario I have never played before. And like I said, I think it was definitely while she was sleeping. I'm not sure if it was the first night or second night, but I beat the game, and it was one of those games that I was like, oh, I got to play the second one. I need more of this game. I need more of this Mario game. It also energized me. 8, 9 o'clock in the morning, I was still good to go. We're doing breakfast. We're gonna get her a nap. Thank God I had somebody come over and relieve me, so I was able to sleep for a good 5 or 6 hours and kind of recharge a little bit for the next night. But it was perfect there because it wasn't only my experience with being a dad and kind of being isolated, but I was also worried about my wife. And you know at that time, you just don't know. And COVID's a very serious thing, and people are dying of it, and there's so many implications. Not to mention, if she had it, then we'd all have to get tested. And what if I got to be away from my job and all of that stuff going on? And it just pacified me for that time. And thank God, we got the test, and within it was the third day we found out that she did not have COVID, and everything worked out well. But it was just kind of funny because the two heroes of the situation was Mario Galaxy and Community, and it got me through and actually made that experience one of those that I kind of look back on fondly, which is crazy because it was such a high uh, intense situation. And I think about it now, and it's one of my favorite gaming memories, just to be there experiencing Mario Galaxy for the first time. Like I said, such a wonderful, fun game. It was such dynamic gameplay, and this whole world of experiencing different galaxies and exploring different places. The full like enveloping of 3D and that whole thing is fantastic. But doing that while I'm sitting there next to my daughter, sleeping peacefully, and having kind of my first night where I'm on my own with my daughter, and it just everything worked out well, and everything was great. So yeah, it turned into a good memory now. But that has to make the list for the third and final most important Mario game in my my life, I guess, my experience with Mario, and why Mario probably should be higher on my list of important game series. And it's kind of funny how this video came about. I was just thinking about Mario Odyssey, and I was doing that whole video for, why it's so much fun, and why, why it's good for newbies, if you will. And then I thought, oh, well, you know what? My son also beat that game. And I'm like, oh, that's kind of crazy because I beat the first one. That was my first game. That was his first game. And then I had the memory of Mario Galaxy and my daughter, and I'm like, wow, just across my family, Mario has been kind of there. That's crazy. That's great. It should definitely be more important to me. But anyway, I just thought I would share those memories with you and that stories. I like to do that every once a week or so. Do a little bit of a gaming memory, or why this game is important, why that game is important, and just that whole storytelling um, thing. I also wanted to explain something too. Someone asked, why do I end the show with "take care of yourself and your loved ones"? So it actually does come from an episode of Community where at the end of a fake talk show, one of the characters signs off with that, and the other one gives him a look like that's the best you could do. And so it's just a nod to it. It's like this one-off thing, and no, it's not Troy and Abed. If you watch Community, it's a different. It's not even like main characters in the show at all. It was a complete side thing, um, and I always thought that was really funny. And if you're not aware, the intro that I put on some of the videos, I don't put on all of them, but that's also one of the jazz theme songs in Community that's played all the time. But it's not like prominent. It's not the intro. It's not the. It's just a song that you'll hear if you watch the show. Every now and then you'll hear somebody humming it, or it'll be on the radio, and it's a. It's definitely like acknowledged in the community, uh, world and forums and everything. So anyway, that's just that whole thing, and why I do that. I like to make little nods to that series because it is one of my favorite. No, not one. It is my favorite TV show of all time. But anyway, thanks a lot, guys. I appreciate you giving me your time. Have a great rest of your week. I think we got a couple more videos scheduled to come out. I want to do a final thoughts on Neo: The World Ends With You because I'm already through it. That's how great that game was, and we'll get that up there here soon. Anyway, thanks a lot, guys. Take care.